Pasulka, Ivy Masters Learning Center and IvyMasters.com. And today we're going to look at Test 2, Section 3, Number 6, which reads, an xy plane above, L is parallel to line K. What is the value of P? First, let's get into some legal cheating. So what you may not know that the SAT will say, the proctor will read this, no one will pay attention to it, but you guys pay attention to it. Under notes, figure provided in this test are drawn to scale unless otherwise indicated. There's questions, this one included, that you could get correct just paying attention to that. How? Well, you think about this. What's the distance between the origin and the point 0, 2? Of course, that distance is 2. What's the distance between the origin and the point -5, 0? That distance is 5. There's only positive distances. What's the distance between the origin and the point 0, -4? That point is 4. And then just look at it. The distance between the origin and the point P0. This looks like it's 2 or 5 or 4 or greater or less than them. Of course, it looks like it's greater than 5. You can eliminate A and B. Now, on test day, you're going to be given your book with your questions, and of course, you're going to have your bubbles. You could literally take that bubble sheet and measure out 2 distances of 4 and 2 distances of 5 and see which the distance from the origin to the point P0 would be. And those are your measurements because literally to get to the point 0, 2, you have to count up 2 units, so it's 2. To get to the point -5, 0, you count to the left 5 units, so on and so forth. Method 1. Method 2. You could also, now notice, it looks like each of those lines forms a triangle with the axis. And whenever you've got, you might remember this from geometry class, whenever you've got parallel lines, make the little arrows to show that they're parallel. We would call this a transversal. Alternate interior angles are always equal. So that angle is equal to that angle. This angle is equal to this angle. So, in fact, when you've got parallel lines and a transversal, any acute obtuse pair are going to add to 180. So if we treated our parallel lines, now I know that they're crooked here, it's like this, but since they are parallel, you could treat this as a transversal. So in other words, this angle equals that angle. And again, also since they're parallel lines, you could treat the x-axis as a transversal as well. So in which case that angle is going to equal that angle. In which case you've just proven the triangles to be similar. And similar triangles, you might remember, have sides that are in proportion. They also have something called scale factor. So what's scale factor? It's like how many times bigger is one triangle than the other. And how do you determine that? Well, if I look at the small triangle, the small side is 2. If I look at the big triangle, the small side is 4. The scale factor is 2. In other words, the big triangle is exactly double the size of the small triangle. So how do you use that? Well, the middle size, it's the longer leg, is 5 on the small triangle. The longer leg on the big triangle must be double that as well. Just like the 4 is double the 2. If you double the 5, you get 10. So that is going to be your answer. Lastly, how can you do this? Well, anytime you're given 2 coordinates, it tells us that these lines are parallel. Parallel lines, we know the relationship of their slopes. Their slopes are equal. And to find parallel lines given 2 coordinates, all you do is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I like to try to keep it positive. So if I'm looking at line L, it's going to be 2 minus 0. It's a good idea to take this step. You could say x2, y2, x1, y1. Just to keep it straight, 2 minus 0 over 0 minus -5. And then you get 2 over, and when you subtract a negative, you add a positive, you get 2/5. We would expect that because if you've got a line with a positive slope, just like you read from left to right, a line with a positive slope is going to go up from left to right. When you look at the other one, since the slopes have to be equal, you could say, so it's m equals this, and m is your slope. In place of your slope, you could put 2/5. So 2/5 equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to do basically the same thing I did before. This is x2, y2. This is x1, y1. And now I've got 0 minus -4. That's a 0, not a 6. So it's 0 minus -4 over p minus 0. And that minus negatives plus positive, you get 4 over p equals 2 over 5. And you could see, you could just multiply by 2 to get your p. You could always cross multiply and set equal, in which case it's 2p equals 20. You divide both sides by 2, and once again you get your answer, which is 10. Thank you for joining us today. If you like this video, click like. You can share it, and I realize you can't see the answer choices there, but thank you for joining us today. If you like this video, click like. You could share it with someone who has difficulty with these types of questions, doesn't know how to get the slope between 2 points, doesn't know similar triangles, doesn't know that the figure provided in the test is drawn to scale unless otherwise indicated. If there's any question you'd like to see answered from any official PSAT or SAT or ACT, leave that in the comments. I'd be happy to shoot a video on it. Click subscribe so don't miss anything, and check out our 1-minute video on TikTok. Have a great day.